watch and burn.
Hey everybody, so tonight I'm looking to discuss Amanda Palmer's 2014 book, The Art of Asking. And first off, Amanda Palmer is an incredible writer. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. Anybody who's familiar with her songwriting will know that she's an incredible songwriter. So the fact that it translates over into her writing a really compelling book about her life isn't going to be too surprising. I love how it starts off with her. She was working at that ice cream shop making minimum wage, and then she decides that she's going to become a human statue. And it was there that she begins to understand the concept of asking for help. You know what I mean? Like, when somebody offers you money, take it. You know what I mean? Say thank you and move on. And she points out how when she was a statue and she's standing all frozen and shit, that she noticed that some people, when she'd make eye contact with them, that she realized just how lonely a lot of the world is, and how when she made eye contact with them, it sort of helped to validate their existence. Like, when she looks at them as a statue and they look back, their eyes are saying to her that, like, oh my God, you see me. Like, thank you. Like, I feel fucking invisible over here, and I know you see me. And so she picked that up. And then she said, too, that from time to time, like, a homeless person would come up and put $1 in, like, give her $1. And then she'd hand down one of her statue flowers to them. And she said that she felt really conflicted about that, because she was like, well, the homeless person clearly needs the $1 way more than I do. But then she's like, on the flip side of that coin, they did give it to me. And it's like, it's almost rude in that sense. If you're like, no, keep it, you're homeless. No, they wanted to give you the $1, so she took the $1. And she realized that on a good day, she could make a few $100s. On an average day, she could make $100, which was more money than she was making at the ice cream shop. So she was able to do this like full time. She had a bunch of people screaming at her to get a job, of course. That's going to happen. And at one point, too, she was out there and these dudes ran up all dressed in black and they kidnapped her, which she said initially was like the scariest thing that ever happened to her. But as it turns out, it was like people that knew her and they were just doing it to fuck with her, which I think is an absolutely brilliant idea. If I ever come across anybody I know that's being a human statue, I am totally going to kidnap them. But yeah, I thought that was really funny too. And then she discusses how eventually when they signed to Roadrunner, they got 100 grand for the record, her and Brian and the Dresden Dolls. And how I love how she was living at, she had an apartment at this place called the Cloud Club, run by this dude named Lee. And he was like a massive like patron to the arts, or like the artist type who would always like let people use his space, use the Cloud Club for whatever they needed. And he was really supportive and really helpful. And that was sort of like what this Lee guy excelled at, was helping artists achieve their vision. And the video for Girl Anachronism was filmed there in the place where Amanda was living at the time. And if I'm not mistaken, right up until the publishing of the book, I think she still kept her apartment at the Cloud Club going too. I thought that was really fun that the video for Girl Anachronism was filmed there. And so yeah, so they get 100 grand from Roadrunner. And then when everything's said and done with, they put out their 3 records, I believe, well, their 2 records, and well, Yes Virginia, No Virginia. And then she also did Who Killed Amanda Palmer. And it was at that point when they pointed out that she looked fat in the video for, I think it was Leeds United, that you could see that things had sort of shifted with her. And her fans really embraced it. They ended up calling it the Rebellion, like as in belly, because her belly was showing. And then the label drops her, of course, and then she does the massive Kickstarter thing, which makes like $2 million like that for Theater is Evil. It was like the biggest thing Kickstarter had ever seen, or the fastest Kickstarter ever like achieved, or whatever it was. And so the other thing about this book that I absolutely loved was how useful she found social media to be in a time when social media was just kind of finding its footing. Like, initially, she didn't really think much of Twitter. But then Twitter, once she had a couple million people on Twitter, she found that that was the best place to communicate with her fan base through. And then she kept pushing to get people's emails in the early 2000s. Do you email, she would say. Do you email? And because apparently a bunch of her more artistic friends were still not on board with the email thing yet. So the question would be, do you have an email address? Which in 2024 is insane. But back then it was a question. Do you email? It's amazing that the question, do you have an email, was a thing. And so I loved that aspect of it too. They discussed Patreon way back before Patreon became like the big YouTube juggernaut that it is now. And so that was the other thing I absolutely loved about this book, was just the focus on technology and how like useful social media can be when it's harnessed in the right way. You know, because God, social media can be so ugly too. But Amanda Palmer showed everybody just how positive a place Twitter can be when it comes to sort of communicating with your dedicated fan base. So I thought this sort of signaling out to the importance of social media earlier on, prior, in a time when social media, like Facebook was a thing, of course, but social media at that point wasn't what social media is now. Like, if you're not on TikTok or Kick or some shit, it's almost like you don't exist. At this point, when the book was being written, everything was still figuring itself out, and it felt more natural and maybe a little more honest and inclusive. What else did I want to say? She was noticing, too, that the mainstream media was mattering less and less as the result of social media. Like, we don't need to have the news or whatever talk about our new record. I can just tell my fan base directly through my Twitter feed or Facebook page or whatever it was. And so then at one point, at some point in the book, Radiohead releases In Rainbows. And Radiohead, of course, that was like the first internet record where, in the sense that Radiohead released it with a pay what you want tag attached to it. And if I'm not mistaken, they were the first big band to do that. And that was because Radiohead really understood. The guys in Radiohead have always been sort of visionaries in the sense that they're able to figure out things that are going to happen a ways down and sort of attach themselves to that just before it happens. They're like David Bowie in that sense. Like, they're just able to figure some things out before everybody else. And they saw that with the internet and with music, with everything that had happened with Napster, right up until the time when In Rainbows was being released, that it would be smart for them to release a record either for free, where you didn't have to pay anything for the record, or if you wanted to pay $1, you could pay $1. If you wanted to pay $100, you could pay $100. And then, as a complete side note, I absolutely loved the physical release for Radiohead's In Rainbows. It was like a do-it-yourself CD where you had, like, I think the only thing it didn't come with was the jewel case. It came in a slipcase with all the stickers and everything for you. All you had to do was get a jewel case, like a CD jewel case, and then you could create the jewel case using the stickers and the inlay and everything that was provided in the slipcase that came with the physical copy of In Rainbows. So I thought it was really fun, too, that Radiohead kind of allowed you to kind of DIY their record. And then, so what happens is the head of Amanda's label didn't know who Radiohead was, which was rather disconcerting. And they thought giving the record away at a pay what you want or a free price tag was one of the worst ideas they had ever heard. And it was at this point that Amanda was like, I got to get the fuck out of this record contract, because I don't know what's worse. The fact that, you know, my record label, the head of my record label doesn't know who Radiohead is, or the fact that they think that giving a record away for free is a bad idea, because it's not. Because really, you could always make the argument that records are just sort of physical invitations to concerts, right? Like, if a band was to give their record away, physical copies, for free, everybody's still going to go see them live. So it's true. It's almost like records could be seen as business cards, you know? Boom, here's my record. If you think we kick ass, we're playing a show over there tonight, you know? Instead of charging $10, $15, $20, $30 for it. It is a really good idea, because records don't really matter as much. Music is just as important as it ever was, but physical copies of albums, they just don't carry the same weight that they used to. So the idea of sort of using them as invitations to get people to come and see you live isn't really that absurd. And then she does talk about her ukulele days. Now, I think personally, Amanda Palmer and her ukulele are just about the most evil thing in existence. I would rather wrestle fucking Satan than listen to one of her ukulele tracks from start to finish. Oh, fuck. I hated Amanda Palmer. When she did that Amanda Palmer Down Under thing when she was in Australia and she released that record with her fucking ukulele. I hate the ukulele, and I especially hate Amanda Palmer with her ukulele. It's like every time I see her pull that fucking instrument out, it's like cringe city. And then somebody steals it. And I'm at the part of the book, I'm like, oh my fuck, somebody stole her ukulele. I'm like, oh dude, fucking soulmates. They're inside of my head thinking we gotta get this fucking thing away from her. But no, they were really fans of hers, and they were drunk and they didn't mean to do it, and they gave it back and they apologized, and then they gave her one of their band CDs because they were in some punk band. So Amanda Palmer got her ukulele back. That means Amanda Palmer's still probably making ukulele music. I don't want to hear any more Amanda Palmer ukulele music. Fuck me. And that's a big statement, okay? Because I love the Dresden Dolls, and I love Who Killed Amanda Palmer. I love everything she's done solo, right up to There Will Be No Intermission. So her ukulele shit's like the devil's work. Okay, fuck. And I think that's all I'm really going to say. There is a lot that I left out. This is an incredible book. An incredible book. She's an incredible writer. She keeps it light. She keeps it interesting. Every time you turn around, there's something wild happening. There's something really engaging going on that holds your attention from start to finish. So if you love Amanda Palmer, especially old Amanda Palmer, this book is totally worth your time. And that's it. I'm getting out of here. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for about 11 and a half minutes while I discussed Amanda Palmer's, I believe, 2014 book, The Art of Asking. Like always, if you like this review or you like this book, don't forget to go and do something nice for somebody. But like always, most importantly, never forget that the world is actually a better place because you are in it and you are not invisible and you matter. And I'm getting out of here. So, yeah. God, I hate Amanda Palmer and her ukulele.